It fades out, but it comes back in. It's called the loop. It's not that impressive, but what are you going to do? What's going on, guys? It's Perfectly Rated. It's live in living color here on the Perfectly Rated YouTube channel. This could be farmed out to the Get My Go YouTube channel. I don't know, but all I do know is I am the Chadster, if you didn't know by now. And I'm joined here today by two of my great good friends, the stars of the Get My Go universe, the guys that if it wasn't for them, there would be no Go in Get My Go. But I got the Aussie guy and Joe Feeney here today. What's going on, fellas?
I like to be called the Incomparable now. So if you could just go ahead and read
the Incomparable Joe Feeney. I mean,
yeah.
Look, it rolls off the tongue, but again, we have a good rapport, so I don't know what to tell you.
I'm doubly confused here, and I know Dean's already thrilled to have me on because I have a terrible habit of talking over him. But I thought we were doing Get My Go. I don't understand what I'm doing right now. And B, it says Francine's podcast in the corner there. If you've got the
it does. God,
producer
I thought
man.
Everything. Well, the good thing was I'll just crop that part out. But that's a good point. Wow, I don't even know where that one is on the little logo list. But what are you gonna do? It might be perfectly rated, but it ain't perfect. How about that? I'll just take the L. So what are we doing, Dean? What's going on with you there on the upside down world? What's going on in your side of the neck of the woods?
Yeah, much like Joe, I was ready to make my triumphant return to Get My Go. It's been a while since I've been on a Get My Go. And look, I noticed someone was actually yearning for me in the Facebook group, which I was excited about because I like to call myself the most forgettable man in podcasting. A lot of people just are very it's indifferent to me. Like that, I don't get hate, but I also don't get a whole lot of people going, "Hey, you remember that guy?" So it's always nice. Conan remembered me the other day. I heard a clip where Conan mentioned me. So maybe I'm starting to become a little bit more memorable.
You know what you need? You need a gimmick. A pair of sunglasses, or you could also do coke while you're and not turn your camera off. That's pretty popular. So
it's not bad.
Didn't he do a drug test to prove he didn't?
I saw that, yeah. And I always back this up by saying I like Sean, so I'm not shitting on him. And he could always party with me next WrestleMania in Philly if he wants. I think we're down for the same kind of party.
I think he's a great dude. I like Sean a lot. I talked to him yesterday. Name drop.
Yeah.
Boop. How about that? It's my show. I can do what I want. Hey, Dean, speaking of everybody interrupting you, how do you feel to be the most interrupted guy on Get My Go? It's kind of funny. Whenever we get rolling, Dean's like, we're like, jump, and we jump in front of you. So how does that feel in the Get My Go world? You're the most interrupted guy.
I think there is a slight delay to Australia, and it's ever so slight, but it's just enough to where someone gets 2 or 3 words in, and I'm polite. If I hear someone talking, I'll stop. And so it just kind of happens. But yeah, I've definitely left a lot of jokes on the cutting room floor over the years because I just don't manage to get in time. But yeah, look, it's tough sometimes. It gets frustrating, but it's part of the nature of the beast, isn't it?
So all right. I got a little topic for us here. So we got our Get My Go universe, right? We got our little rogues gallery of enemies or people that we rip on. Maybe we should see where they rank. We're from 5 to 1, worst to first. Yeah. Maybe that's something we go with here on this impromptu day. Because the only other thing I have is Joe Feeney shoot interview, Insider's Edge podcast, episode 167.
Did you see my subtitle or whatever the fuck you call that little thing there under my name?
Get My Go.
On here.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There you go. That's very nice. Very nice. I love that. That when I found that, I was like, there you go. That's where the Chadster nickname is gonna lay. Perfect spot for it. So yeah, well, I mean, we can do both. We got the time. You mentioned Wingling as maybe kind of taking like a lighter tone over the last couple of months. These Leave It to Beaver episodes, obviously bringing them back into the Get My Go,
purview.
Yeah, thank you. That was the word I was looking for. And, we kind of got to see what he's been up to, but it was like a different Wangland. It was not the same, we watched him on the talk show. It wasn't that same Wangland with the little false confidence. It was the Wangland defeated. I'm just doing a
Humbled.
show with my dad. Yeah, because I have nothing else better to do. But it's very easy for him to become that chip on his shoulder, Wangland too. So it's hard to say he's like totally reformed himself. So I don't know if he would be like the most endeared member of the Rogues Gallery, but like I say, it softened on Wangland a little bit over the last year or so, leading up to the Leave It to Beaver comeback.
Yeah, I got over everything. The Get My Go stuff with him was fun, and he's still my favorite fucking topic. I always told Durbin that. Some people might have been tired of it. I'm like, no, more Wangland, and a little Martin. But like, if people I don't know, people maybe they don't forget, but it's like it was kind of personal and it was business at the same time, because as people were taking shots at each other and getting social media accounts suspended and fucking with sponsors, like there was some actual animosity there on my side, but that's been years now, so I don't care anymore. If he's in town and he comes to this thing, and I'll do a shot with him, I don't care, but then get away from me. I don't like when people crowd me.
Yeah. I found it funny, hilarious to be honest, that after that Leave It to Beaver episode that you guys did, his big thing was to like make sure to clarify about the audio. Like that was the one legitimate criticism, like in terms of this is a real criticism that you should sort out. Your audio was terrible. That was the thing that he focused in on. He wanted to defend himself on that. All the gay shit, the marriage shit, all of that. That's fine. We'll let that shit slide. But yeah, my audio was it was a one-off time. We didn't quite have the right setup. Whatever. Yeah, that was funny. I never had a problem with Wangland. I always saw the humor in his fucking up metaphors and famous sayings and all of that. His ego that was well above what he was capable of, all of that. And that's why I went through literally hundreds of hours of Wrestling with Reality to find clips. And at the end of the day, I listened to hundreds of hours for about 3 hours of content for Get My Go or something. You know what I mean? Like it was so much stuff, but you just never knew when that next little bit of magic was coming around the corner. And
Right.
Discovering those stories of him talking about being recognized because of his YouTube channel and shit, like that's just bonkers. So yeah, there's not too many better than Wangland. Like he is a great topic. He's obviously number one for Get My Go. We just dedicated an entire season to him in terms of our targets. He's definitely number one. But I think we've discovered some guys that are quite fun and hilarious. And like, I'm a big fan of JVD. This is like, he's one of your like classic wrestling nerds that, to be honest with you, like I don't think he gives a shit what anyone thinks about him. Like he's just gonna live his life and he loves it. And it's hilarious for us to watch. But I think he genuinely enjoys it and he genuinely loves what he does. And that's why I think JVD is kind of a bit of an outlier in the fact that I think we all love him. But at the same time, there's great comedy in JVD.
And he would I don't know if he'll be there, but Rue, as we know, is very local to me. So if we do this thing and some Get My Go targets show up, Rue's probably number one as far as probability. And like we said on the last time we recorded, I believe Chad wants him to show up as Herb Crackerjack.
Yes, I want him to show up as the character, but I'm going to piggyback off of the JVD. JVD, I think, has become the most beloved of the Get My Go targets because of that obsession with his wrestling life and because of how much he loves the wrestling world. I follow his YouTube channel now. It comes up in my subscriptions every time it updates. He's very passionate, okay? He gets his new title belts. He does a whole thing talking about him, right? There's a new game coming out. He's talking about it. He was on top of the XFL every single week. And now the XFL isn't directly related to wrestling anymore, okay? Tell that to JVD. He just still thinks it's owned by Vince McMahon and it's still the WWF. It was impressive that he stuck with the XFL every fucking week of the goddamn XFL season and gave detailed predictions, results.
It's quite a niche.
You got to tip your cap, right? So I got to say, if I was going to pick an most endeared person of the Get My Go Dabbleverse or universe, whatever we want to call it, I got to say JVD tops the list. He's like the least of my worries when I think about these Rogues Gallery supervillains. I think was it
there's
you, Joe, that
nothing.
said the Legion of Doom of Get My Go?
Yeah, I wanted Durbin to make a Justice League style or a Marvel versus DC shirt with like five of us and then 5 of the targets on the other side. But I think any of those guys that are a real pain in the ass, if they saw a caricature of themselves or their
Of
face,
course
they'd
they
probably
would.
do something,
But some of them wouldn't be that smart, though. You can't give them that much credit because they also they love to see themselves in lights. They love to see the name on the marquee, so they would just love the fact that somebody's actually thinking about them and
put them in their design.
Exactly. So that's another thing.
Yeah, but
finish
let me
your thought,
about,
and I got another one
JVD
for you.
about JVD real quick. I agree with you guys because he's the. I don't think anybody has any real negative feelings towards JVD. Like he's harmless, And while people and viewers and maybe some of us might hate Billy or maybe some of us hated John or hate JD from New York and Otaku are just appalling. But like JVD's the one where he's completely harmless. And actually, I felt bad sometimes when we did him.
I didn't. I thought it was great. I thought it was a huge addition to our repertoire. But his buddy, I think, to me at least, he almost moves to the top of my list because Rue is one of the most oblivious fucking guys I've ever seen do any kind of podcasting or video podcasting or vlogging or character work. This is a guy who has absolutely no idea what he's doing, but still does it and is consistent with his obliviousness. So to me, it's Rue, who I'd put Rue almost. No, I can't put him in the number 1 spot. There's a couple people who I put underneath Rue, but Rue, honorable mention for the least liked Get My Go villain, if you know what I mean, or most hated, whatever you want to say.
Really, you nominate Rue?
I would nominate Rue. Rue's been trolling me forever, right?
Oh, okay.
And it's so bad that Rue thinks that nobody knows it's Rue, but the comedy is so bad, it's Rue. It's so awful. It can only be one guy. And he talks like this when he does his character. It's Rue.
Oh, yeah, his Republican voice is like, But that's interesting that you can nominate Rue. When you think about it, there's some actual documented pieces of shit that Get My Go is made fun of. With criminal records and probably welfare fraud and just all kinds of scumbaggery. And Rue, to me, I would say the same thing. Rue just seems kind of harmless,
I mean, one of the grossest people in all of this has never really been a target other than that one 4-part showdown episode. But let's put up there as the grossest person in all of this is Rad Rob.
Yeah, there's supposed to be a switch in your brain that flips when the devil on your shoulder says, let's just stand in the window and, pull the curtains apart so she can see us. And then the other side of your brain goes, how about you just jerk off in the bathroom? How about that one? Let's do that.
No, you look for it's the old Family Guy jokes. Where's the other guy? And he's sitting in traffic, Come on.
That's one of the things. I've never seen anyone burn bridges so much. And like for someone that has something like that in your past that you've now let get out there, and he put it out there. At the end of the day, he did tell John, but John never put it out there. Rob put it out there. But he just goes from person to person and burns bridges and like literally just scorched earth when he finishes a podcast with someone. Again, Chad was on with me last week on United States of Australia as I announced that Roxanne was no longer going to be on our show. And I just said, thanks, Rox. She's busy now. She can't be part of the show. Like, there's no need to sit there and go, that fucking piece of shit cunt. I've got some shit on her. You know what I mean? Like, there's no need for that. Like, but that's what he does. Anytime he splits with anybody, he's got to go scorched earth and just, they're a fucking piece of shit. And it's like, dude, you're one of the grossest people around. Like, you should shut the fuck up and just get on with your life.
But it's easy to see things that we said before about how the guys like John and Rob meet each other. And then 2 weeks later, I love you, brother. And all that weird shit. He's my best friend. Because if you take the attitude that Rob's had in the podcasting space and transfer it to real life, then he really is friendless, because there's no way you could keep anyone in your life acting like he acts,
He to me, he's always been the guy that, again, if you get pushed out of this little group, it's pretty
fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be pretty bad. But I mean, again, it's like lighting the fire to the bridge. But there were little things the whole time that I think all of us probably were like, all right, that's a little weird. For me, I have a couple. You know, I go back to when I was doing Diamond Conversations, and he was messaging me when I had Facebook before I got banned because I'm too hot for Facebook, where he was volunteering to be my co-host for episodes of this show that, one, was a passion project, and two, you really got to be up on a certain level to sit there and talk to ball players and be able to spit fire stuff and talk and keep the conversation going. But also 90% of the guys that I had on the show, I already had an established relationship with. So I'm just supposed to bring on this giant, big, fat, disgusting human being to scare away these guys that I'm, one, having some sort of working relationship with, and two, trying to get a 30-minute conversation out of them. But I have this giant distraction right in the center box. Like, I thought it was super arrogant of him to be like, oh yeah, let me come and co-host anytime you have a Red Sox guy on. It's like, no, first of all, A, I don't even know you. And B, like, what gives you the balls to message me to say I have the chops to be on your show? Like, that to me was my first strike. The second strike was the Superstars sessions of Get My Go, where I was just lied to over what it was, because for some reason I wasn't being directly invited at that point. Rob was my invite
to Get My Go.
Like, he was sending me the original invites, but the Superstar session I was told was Get My Go. And when I popped on, I think, Joe, you might have been on it, and I think Mike might have even been there. And it was like, what the fuck is this? Like, this isn't Get My Go. Like,
I would liken some of the expressions in that group to what you would see if someone was being held hostage.
Yeah, and it was like a Wednesday night, you know, it was like, it was weird. And it rubbed me the wrong way. And I was like, okay, that's strike 2, right? And then, you know, strike 3 was when he left the Get My Go group and then started burying. I think, was it you first, Joe, or was it Mike? He went after somebody.
Rob's never going after me. I don't.
He didn't go. Or maybe it was Dean.
I think it was Mike. Yeah. I absolutely made
you
him.
Can't go after Dean. Like, that's an absolutely reprehensible offense in the Get My Go rule book. You don't go after Dean, and I'm very protective of the Aussie guy. And that was it. And that was all she wrote. And he put me in the crosshairs pretty quickly. And my crosshairs for him, I had to widen the box a little bit. I had to widen.
Yeah, I guess the only people he didn't take aim at was Husey and I. Unless him and Husey had a good.
And Husey, I imagine Husey's still fine with him to this day. You know, like Husey makes his jokes, but Husey stays cool with everyone.
He does.
And that's what happened with me. Like, I will always go for the joke, and I don't care if it makes you feel uncomfortable. And that's what I was doing to Rob, and he snapped. He snapped and he fucking turned on me. It's funny you mentioned, Chad, because I was similar to you. Before we did eventually get our core group together, and we had our chat DM where we organized Get My Go, I was the same. Not so much through Rob. I think it was usually through Joe or Mike who would message me and that. And this, one of the funnier ones was Mike had messaged me about a recording, and he was like, yeah, we're going to do this Saturday. What time works for you? And I said, look, if you guys could do 10 a.m. Eastern, that would be awesome. Like, that's fucking so much better for me. Because I think we were doing like midday at that point. And
we did noon. Yeah, we did a few other times.
And you guys brought it forward to 10 a.m. for me. And Mike asked me that. And I was like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. And then like 2 days later, and at this point, I didn't even know Rob was going to be on the episode. And then 2 days later, Rob messaged me and goes, can you do 10 a.m. on Saturday? And I was like, yeah, we picked that time for me, dude. Like, that's you know what I mean? Yeah. And at that point, like, similar to what you were just saying, Chad, the arrogance of it, of like, you think I don't know what's going on here? Like, it was funny to me.
I got to be honest with you, Rad Rob's going to get my number 1 spot. I'll just reveal that right now, because he's absolutely jumped every single person in terms of just the scumminess of what he's done and said. Although gave me one of the greatest nicknames in the history of mankind, and that is the typical 90s douchebag, which I can't even tell you, I wear that with a badge of honor. And I don't have tattoos, but if I did, it would say that. So
typical 90s douchebag could be a shirt that caught on, you know.
Well, like I just don't like the profane use of the word douchebag. I can't wear that around, the family, and I'm still just like John Wangle said, I'm a sweet guy, so I can't wear a shirt that says douchebag.
I think what And it was only whispers around me, so I don't know how many people know the whole story and stuff. But I was started to get uncomfortable when people were like, Rob's DMing wives or some asking for pictures or sending his own
That's weird
dick
as
or
fuck.
something. I was like, oh, I don't want this guy around. I don't.
But see, I don't know if we ever really dug into that. Did we? Did we ever really get
I don't think on
into
air or
that
anything. I think
story?
it's been alluded to.
The grapplers were going to do a big expose, but a specific grappler needed to give his okay, I think. And, well, I mean, I won't give away too much. Perhaps that specific grappler still works with Rob. I don't know.
I was just going to, volley that
got it.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I don't know if they still are. I do not follow. I listened to Rob's podcast for a little while after we all had the falling out because I thought we're going to go hard at this prick at some point. So I'm going to find some material. It's just, it's just boring to me. Like he's not clippable. Like you can clip his arrogance. Sure, when he was working with Brad Shepard and he was going hard about fucking abortion and shit like that. Again, he said some scummy things, but it's like it's scummy shit. It's not great comedy fodder, you know what I mean? It's just some guy being a scumbag, Right. So yeah, I lost any interest. And look, he's fallen off the radar completely.
I mean,
yes.
I don't. We talked a little. He did some of the shows with us, but once he left, he was like off the mountain to me. Like, all right, bye, have a nice life,
And look, Brad. Speaking of Brad Shepard's fallen off the fucking radar as well, and Billy Barty. They're all falling off. It's not working. They've come up with the wrong formula, I guess.
But that's the out of sight, out of mind thing. That's why, because we're not looking at them, because we don't give a fuck if they're not in front of us on the screen. We're not like, oh my god, I have to see what Brad Shepard's talking about. It's out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, it's that's like true. we did the 1 or 2 episodes on Billy, and that's all it took. There's nothing else to say,
It is the same stuff over and over with Billy. He's got the same insults. They're all virgins in their mother's basement. Which, my God, how hack is that? As soon as someone says you're in your mother's basement, I just go, ugh.
I was
you're a boring person.
I was so familiar with his checklist of insults that a friend of mine was going at him on Twitter. And I was like, within 3 tweets, in your profile picture, it's you and your wife. Within 3 tweets, he's going to go, why don't you go walk that dog? Or hey, fill their food dish on the floor. I was like, I guarantee it. And like 2 tweets later, he's like, yeah, go walk that dog. I'm like, ding. See that?
I remember. I remember pulling back the curtain. I remember Fat Coon tweeted him at one point and just gave his criticism and then listed off everything that Billy would come back with so that there was nothing for Billy to come back with. Just, yes, you make more money than me. Yes, you've got more followers than me. Yes, I'm a virgin, blah, blah, blah. I just ticked all the boxes, but you're still a piece of shit.
He tried to get me because he was like, yeah, well, how does it feel to know that Conan and Disco make fun of you behind your back? I'm like, it feels like I was well aware of that.
I mean, I'm serious. If they didn't, I would be shocked.
Right.
You work with them so closely, and they're from.
I heard you get depressed and don't show up for recording, and then they make fun of you. Oh, okay, that's probably all true.
They're from a business where all you do is shit talk people behind their back. So if they weren't talking about you, I'd be shocked. But guess what? That means that they like you. That means that they care enough to be talking about you. A lot of these people that hate on wrestling podcasters or Billy for having this vehement hatred towards K100 after leaving, they just don't get the fact that they tried so hard to penetrate a show with the wrestlers because that's all they wanted was the wrestlers' acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
But Joe or myself can tell you that there's so much more that goes into it than just doing a show with these guys. And you have these long relationships that, again, they didn't talk shit about you. That meant they didn't respect you and they didn't like you because you're constantly on their brain.
Right.
No,
go ahead, dude.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, just a quick one. I totally get that. And for me, like Mike sent a clip this week where Conan and Disco were trashing Get My Go. And Conan was listing off the people on Get My Go that have no charisma or talent or anything. And he mentioned me. I was like, holy shit, I can't believe Conan even...
I've made it into his mind.
Yeah, I can't believe Conan even remembered that I existed. I was like, that's huge for me. But then there's other stuff like with Husey, who does such great work on the YouTube channel. And it's like, can't you give Husey a little credit from time to time? Can't you give Joe a little credit from time to time? You know what I mean? Do you have to constantly be trashing him? But no, I totally get it. if they're talking about you, then they must have some respect for you. Otherwise, they wouldn't pay you any mind.
Right. And it's like,
Exactly right.
you know, you have a personal relationship with somebody. And like Conan kind of goes above and beyond now to check with me and be like, you know, it's just for the show. I'm like, I got it. I know. And I want you to continue, you know, but, you know, this is a guy that texted me from what he thought was his deathbed and said some things about working with me and being my friend and knowing me and all that. And, you know, and I answered him, and, you know, it was a shitty text to get, like, oh, fuck, he thinks he's on his way out, you know? And, but then there's also other guys that will go out of their way to text you and be like, you know, when I had COVID, hey, you all right? Or when the fucking stupid cat was sick, hey, how'd the thing go? You know, that's how you know that you're actually buddies with somebody, you know? And, I'm lucky enough to have some good relationships like that, you know, with other guys I podcast with you guys, with Raven and Conan Disco and Jericho a little bit, and Name Drop City.
Oh, that was Name Drop City.
Frankie
Kazarian.
Kazarian.
If I had a glass shatter noise, I would have played it after you said Jericho.
I was on his show 3 times.
He was. That's
and they're pretty good episodes. I got to give you credit. The Tarantino one was particularly good. I love Tarantino films, so that's a good listen. Go check it out.
Yeah, I thought it was like high praise even being invited, because it's not like, you know, it's 2021 when I did that or whatever. And it's not like I've ever been on the phone with him for a couple hours having a conversation, you know. In person, right. I've only talked to him maybe 45 minutes of my life. So somehow he gleaned from like our text conversation, and I guess from listening to K100 to go, all right, he could do this, you know. And that's a big fucking show. So it was a compliment to even be asked, really. You know,
hey, look, you added some really interesting facts on that episode. Like, you absolutely held your own, and it is a great listen.
Yeah,
Talk is Jericho, the Tarantino episode. It's really good.
Yeah, I prepped pretty heavy for that, and then the Stephen King one, which was just me and him, which, you know, that's a little more intimidating too. But I thought that went pretty well, and I think we're gonna have some. There's 2 that have been on the books for a long time, but I don't know when we're gonna do them. One's a Big Lebowski. People either love that or hate it. I don't know about you guys.
Good night.
Yeah, you know,
out on that one.
Raven said that too, and I'm like, I thought everyone loved this movie.
Don't get it. Don't think it's funny. Don't get the humor. Just think it's a movie that has a duration, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Holy shit! What a perfectly rated piece of shit.
When did you see it?
What year did it come out?
Not like 96 or something.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe 98.
All right, pick back up at this point, Chad. You guys are not going to believe what Chad just edited out, and that's some serious, super awesome goss that only we've got.
I didn't say anything. I just said I was taking that part out. I didn't say anything bad at all. So we talked about the Big Lebowski, and now here we are. Here's a guy. What?
Yeah, go ahead, Chad. No,
go ahead. Go.
It's just specifically to annoy Husey. The other episode with Jericho and probably Kazarian would be, that's right, 15 years since Chinese Democracy. I know everyone is chomping at the bit to hear about that all over again.
That's amazing. Just to think that it felt like it took 15 years for the damn thing to come out.
It did.
And now it's 15 years for it since it's been released. And I remember when that fucking thing dropped, that when they were leaking better out on Napster and LimeWire, and like, oh no, this is the complete version. It was like 1:35. And then it was like 1:40. And every time they updated the quality or something, it felt like it took 15 years for it to come out. So congratulations, Chinese Democracy.
Yeah, I was well into that. And I think it's actually my downloading and being thoroughly impressed with the leaks that I've heard. And then emailing Durbin and Husey every little leak, whether it was 10 seconds or no vocals in the song or whatever, pretty much turned them both against Guns N' Roses. So because I pestered them so much, you know, and I've been known to do that.
I was going to say, and I don't even get that level from you, but my co-host on United States of Australia, Robbie, is a huge Josh Allen sycophant. And I was supportive of Josh Allen in the beginning, but he's made me hate Josh Allen, and I want Josh Allen to fail now because of his fucking obsession. You've done the same thing with Guns N' Roses. Not that I was a big Guns N' Roses fan, but every time I open up that fucking chat and Joe's commented, it's something Guns N' Roses. I'm like, fuck off. Fuck Guns N' Roses. Fuck.
Do you want me to do that with the Monkeys? You want me to put some Monkeys news in there? Will that make you feel better?
That's like, you know, everybody has the friends like that where you're like, no, you got to watch 6 Feet Under on HBO. Hey, I'll check it out a few weeks later. Did you watch it? I want to ask you about it. What you thought? No, I haven't watched it yet. A month later. when are you going to watch 6 Feet Under? All right, I'm never watching it. I'm never going to watch it. Fuck you.
That's
and I
the
was like that
decision
with I was like that with Game of Thrones. A friend of mine was like, I'm telling you, you'll like this. I'm like, fucking dragons and magic. That's bullshit. I'll never watch this fucking shit. And then they came out with a game. It was like a click and point. You guys ever played Telltale games? They had the Walking Dead game, and guess not. They came out with
never once in my life.
Yeah, they came out with a Thrones game, and I thought it was so good that I was like, oh, I guess I'll just watch the show. And like within like 5 days, I was on Facebook going, the fucking Red Wedding, holy shit, you know? So I was proven very wrong on that. Just like Chad will be proved wrong about the Big Lebowski.
You got to wake up pretty early in the morning to prove me wrong about that.
It's nice.
That perfectly rated piece of shit. So I got a name for you that hasn't been mentioned yet. And again, he could top a lot of lists. He's been the subject of many an episode. And I got to be honest with you, he's somebody that I have stated that if he's on the next Get My Go, I will not be. And that is Brother Martin. Now, again, I have my history with Brother Martin, and I don't know the extent of the history.
You saved his life.
I saved his damn life. So you can thank me or you could not thank me for that. But he's just a very hateable guy. There's a lot of stuff he says. It's very douchey, very hateable. But I don't know the extent of everybody else's kind of history and feelings with him outside of, she rides my dick and doing shows about his dead grandma and talking about fucking his wife in the bathtub. Yeah, like weird crap like that. But I would put Brother Martin at a strong number 2 on my rogues gallery behind the big. Well, Rad Rob has to have one because he needs the space. But number 2 would be Brother Martin, just because of pure and utter hatred for the shittiness of his podcasting.
Joe, you go first. I've got an interesting relationship with Brother Martin, and I've just got to quickly go let the dogs out. So, Joe, you go first, and I'll be right back.
He started off on the wrong foot with me, because the first message I ever got from him was like, here's my GoFundMe. And I'm like, or can you read it on K100 or something? I'm like, but I don't know you. They don't know you. I don't know what you're about. I don't know what this is, and I never really had any kind of relationship with him after that. The first time I dealt with him was when Durbin tricked me into being on his show. And it was funny because the gimmick of a stuttering podcaster trying to ask me about my relationship with God was certainly interesting. But I never had a personal relationship with Martin. I just know all the stuff about faking this and that and the GoFundMes and pretending to have cancer and all the deplorable things we're talking about are all hideous. Then you take into account his horribly appalling MSNBC politics where he just regurgitates whatever he hears, because I'm sure he doesn't read. And and the superiority thing that he gets when him and John were on their high horses. It was just all mixed together into an asshole stew, basically. So yeah, and if a lot of the rumors about Martin are true, like the fake GoFundMe and the fake back and the fake cancer and all, then he's up there. I mean, I would put Martin and Rob high up there, but there's somebody we haven't mentioned yet that I think, well, 2 people, but go ahead.
Okay.
Give me your Martin.
Yeah, so it was interesting. So I also went on Martin's podcast back in the. I think all 3 of us did in the early Inspired episodes. That was funny. That episode you went on, Joe, I listened back to that in my phase of trying to clip everything for Get My Go. So Mike was on that episode, and yeah, you're right. He did kind of trick you into coming onto it. Before you got on, that episode was about 25 minutes deep, and Mike Durbin had said about 25 words. Like, it was bonkers. Like, Martin was just talking, and Durbin would give like 3-4 word answers, whatever. So yeah, all of the stuff, the GoFundMes, the cancer thing, all of that, it's gross, it's terrible, it's weird. But Chad, I know you hate him. I think there's something there with Brother Martin. I think.
Oh God!
Like, I do.
Mute Dean. Let's mute Dean. I take back what I said before.
I've spoken to him. He and I we've DM'd throughout this whole thing, and he and I went back and forth on public Twitter during the whole, that first season of Get My Go, and then in DMs we'd talk, and I just kept trying to get him to understand this is fun, dude. It's jokes. It's just goofing. Like, fucking, it's fine. And eventually, I think it was the showdown and how much we belted Rad Rob in the showdown episode, where we didn't really trash John that much. Like, we did, but it was way more Rob focused. Martin watched that, and I think he clicked and he kind of got it. And he was like, these guys do a funny show and all of that. And he's sort of come around to it a bit more. I have genuinely pitched to him now. I don't have the time, but I have said to him, if you're willing to check your ego at the door, check your feelings at the door, I think I could make something out of you. If we were to do a show here and there. I know how much you hate him, Chad, but I do. There is something there with Brother Martin. I'm sorry. I just think there's something there where he can be entertaining, but he needs guidance and direction.
Yeah, he needs to accept himself as a butt of a joke or two or three. That's what you got to do easily, and that's the same thing I had to do with Conan. That the show, obviously immediately improved, and I wasn't so touchy about everything, and that's just the way it goes, And you got to be. Another thing we've said about those guys when they podcast together is you got to be on with people that up your game. So like being on doing the first season to get my go and all, I think sharpened me. It taught me to be quicker. Being on with Raven made me quicker, and all that stuff helped me improve on K100. When you're doing an interview show by yourself with fucking Damian Priest or Bruce or any of the other very large names I had on Creative Control, it's very different. It's different when you record with a group of people. You just gotta understand it, and like I said, you have to be able to keep up. And certain people that we mentioned before had done a few Get My Goes and the side show, whatever that was, and they couldn't keep up. So
interesting. Yeah, and it's picking your spots, like you say, being as quick as you possibly can. And I don't know if we're going to cover that show that Joe did with a fellow Australian, but one of the key factors that Get My Go certainly honed in for me is the listening factor. I don't give a fuck who you are. If you're in podcasting, if you're not listening, if you're not paying attention to everything that's going on that podcast, you're not going to do well. You need to hear everything that's coming in, and you need to be ready to respond to anything that's said. And if you're not, and people like Stuttering John and Ray DeVito and Chad Zumock, all these people that get made fun of relentlessly, it's because they don't listen to what's going on, and then they make themselves sound like idiots because they're not listening. And anybody that gets made fun of, that's pretty much at the core of it. You're not listening. You had this plan for a show you want to do, and you're just focused on that. You're not actually accepting the situation that you're in, and maybe we need to pivot and go in this direction or whatever.
I think I can prove you wrong on that one, though, respectfully, because I work on a show that does very well and has two guys who don't pay attention to anything, even when they're speaking.
Yeah, but I got to refer you to Insider's Edge episode number 167, the Joe Feeney shoot interview.
I got to hear this because I don't know what he did wrong.
Is exactly the formula that Dean just laid out. So
he wasn't listening to me, and he was just going through his list of questions.
Am I skimming of the because that's what it was. It was a hard skim. That is what my takeaway was bullet, 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 bullet. Talk about how 100%. Great I am. Bullet, 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 bullet. I'm so underutilized and I get fucked over and blah, 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 blah. Bullet, 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 bullet.
That's exactly it. I listened to the whole thing, and again, listening. I listened to the whole thing,
you gentle soul, you.
Look, dude, I've listened to a lot of shitty podcasting over the last few years. I can do this. He asked you for advice. And the first thing in my own head, I was screaming, you need to listen to your guest. That's the key fucking thing that you need to do. And that's pretty much what you said, Joe. Like you didn't just blatantly say that, but you're like, do some research on them outside of what they're famous for, because they get sick of talking about what they're famous for. Like find out something about them that's a little bit more personal to them. And then hopefully you can relate to them on that level. And then you explained all this. I was like, that's perfect, Joe. Perfect fucking explanation. And then he was like, I hate when people don't have their facts right. And then he just presented some obscure fact. And I'm like, you didn't even listen to what he just said. Like, you just had your point that you were going to make and you responded with your point,
It's funny because that advice that I apparently gave, because, I don't remember anything, but it has an ending too, because I think my point was like, here's when I finally had Raven on after waiting, and I thought he was never going to do it. He doesn't do that shit. And then he did. So there was like 3 wrestling questions in 45 minutes or whatever. We talked about 70s rock. We talked about TV. We talked about whatever I thought that would actually not turn into a Raven Brother Martin interview. However, that fucking happened. That was it was Hambone and Raven somehow happened. It was like 5 minutes long, but it was just
Harambe.
It was Harambe, yeah. But it was just doing that interview for 45 minutes and asking different questions and finding a common ground and everything. That the next day he's like, "Do you want to do the Raven effect with me this week?" And then after that, it was, "Do you want to do it from now on?" It was just because the interview was a little bit different and it stood out, and that's what I was trying to tell him.
Joe Feeney origin story.
Very beautiful. It's beautiful. Chad, who did you interview?
That guys.
Oh wait.
I used to be a part of a show where there was a formula, and the formula was I set them up with what they want to talk about, get deep into the topic at hand, what they're there to talk about, kind of steer them off of the path that we need to get to then drop the hammer and then beat them for an hour or so, whatever questions need to be asked, and then wrap it up with what they need to talk about again. Continuing, right. Joe, you said you had 2 people here you wanted to throw out. Who do you have on your rogues gallery?
Well, Billy's despicable, obviously.
Billy Body.
I think actually he DM'd me and he was like, it was a bunch of like anger about Get My Go.
Really?
And then he sent me like another, I can't remember what it was. It was like a screenshot of him doing something. He's like, LOL, I guess this is your next Get My Go. Like he kind of liked it and wanted more, So that's the impression I got from him anyway. But so me saying he's despicable, he's probably like, But but he's a hateful dick. And I think I'm a hateful person, but he really does hate everyone and everything, and he's not afraid to express it. And that to me is it makes you a despicable person, and he's done things and said things that are appalling. So I think Billy's up there in the top rankings. That would be one of the 2.
I think when
you guys didn't deal with him personally, really, so that's a whole other side of the piece of the puzzle, for God's sakes.
I've just seen it from afar. I think when your anger towards stuff becomes irrational, then like you sort of lost what you're doing. And I think Billy and Brad Shepard they become a little bit irrational. They're like, we're taking the WWE side, fuck AEW. And then just the shit they try and argue, it's just like, why are you arguing this? This is a waste of time. And then the other thing is the fact that I want to be so edgy. Like, there's a time and a place for edgy humor, and I remember when Wangland and Martin got Martin's buddy in to roast us, and they brought up a picture of me with a noose around my neck, and they were like, "Oh, what an edgelord, you're so edgy." And it's like, I get it. Just putting a noose around your neck, like that does seem pretty silly, but like there was a context to it. You know what I mean? Like there was the whole, you guys had just covered castrating the bros, and obviously Martin's got his history of threatening suicide and all that. Like it was kind of a bit, but I get it. But just saying shit on Twitter or on podcasts just for the sake of being edgy, like when there's no comedy in it, there's no context to it, you're just trying to be edgy. That wears thin on people really, really quick.
Yeah, and I think you guys probably could tell, like that whole fucking year or whatever he was on the show, like how much worse of a mood was I in constantly, and snapping at every little thing and stuff. And since he's been gone, it's been cream cheese. But it was more, it was like a matter of me worrying that he's going to say something that's going to get the show fucked, or me have my arm twisted in a quick release in a segment where a prediction had to be out but didn't come true. That got annoying. And then it eventually, like, he just becomes a handful for anyone he works with, I guess, because then it becomes the time's not right. I don't like the way I don't get to talk enough in my segment. Why can't they follow a format? And I'm like, I've been around 6 years. They're going to start when they start. They're going to talk when they want, and they don't want a fucking format. Like, this is the show that you joined. Like, you're going to start trying to change shit, and, it's not, you're going to be gone. And I try to advise them of that too. Like, dude, you got to know you got to understand the show. This is what it is. Your complaints are falling on fucking deaf ears, believe me. So, but yeah, I was majorly stressed out having to have him on and worrying that he was going to fuck me out of some other shows, Yeah,
but if he perfected the Billy character, it could have been something that you guys had as an extension of K100 rather than this nuisance and this just absolute black cloud hanging over a weekly recording for you, whatever night you had to do it. Or I remember
Mhm.
there were times where you were just like dreading having to go record the segment and or figuring out how you couldn't be around for the segment. Like
Mhm.
just incredible. But again, like I said on the episode we did with Billy or about Billy, if he learned how to perfect the Billy character, he would have had something to say. Think of Brad Shepard. If Brad Shepard learned how to kind of forget about the shtick and be Brad Shepard, the reporter, Brad Shepard would be a viable person in the wrestling news genre, right? But these two guys are so dead set on wanting to be a thing that they lose sight of it, and that's something that they, when you have a commodity and you don't realize it, it's your loss, not ours.
Yeah, and he was damaged goods by the time K100 got him anyway, and those Conan Disco don't care. They didn't know or
No,
whatever.
yeah, why would
But
they?
I didn't know either until he was gone, and people were sending me other things that he did before the show, and I was like, "Fuck, man! No wonder everyone thinks we're assholes for having him on," because it would be like a tweet where he was making fun of Reed Flair dying or things like that, the edgelord stuff that you mentioned. And I was like, God damn, he's thoroughly despised in all corners of this space that we're inhabiting, and we're bringing him on and giving him a platform and giving him an extra show. And this, I was like, it just was such a bad look at the time. It drove me fucking crazy.
Yeah, and look, don't get me wrong. Like, I do love that kind of shit. Like, if it's a funny Reed Flair joke, by all means. But I've seen Billy's stuff. Billy's not funny, and it's just crass and it's just, obscene. One thing about Billy, like how you said, Joe, that he messaged you something about, oh, here's some more material for you. Look, if he legit is like, I just want to be a heel everywhere I go, like if I'm on any sort of public platform, yeah, I think it could work, but he doesn't have it right. You know what I mean? Like, it worked on Big Brother, and I think he's been trying to do that ever since Big
Yeah.
Brother.
Yeah.
And
I
it
said
just keeps getting wearing thinner and thinner on people.
Mhm.
Like, Chad is 100% correct. He hasn't found the right character for Billy Barty, but I do think he's probably not as big a piece of shit in real life as he comes across in a public persona. But in terms of hearing from Billy, have you heard from Billy since his dad's pub got plastered with "Get My Ghost" stickers?
No, I have not. And I expected it too, because I expected blame or Husey would get blame or something. I'm like, bro, I'm not in London. And you know what I'm saying? That's like somebody going and spray painting GMG on the side of a school somewhere. Like, that's not my fault, you know? So
That was what I couldn't get though. Like, so you were in one way, you're stressed out and you didn't want to do the things, but the way he was going after Husey was, I couldn't believe that, because you don't throw rocks at a guy who's got a machine gun. And I think that Husey could have gotten a lot harder at Billy and probably still can. But that was where the guy who made him look the best was Husey. That all of those clips that were Billy talking about blah, blah, blah. And again, once I heard the initial on the clip, I clicked off. But if it was Conan rants on, Killer Cross or John Cena returning, but it was Billy, Husey's the guy that made him look legitimate through K100. And the fact that he started going after Husey in those tweets was so just misguided and a bad look. But again,
he was getting a cut of YouTube money that he didn't deserve, and he's
absolutely.
Husey, who, at the end of the day, without Husey, there is no YouTube money. Like, sure, you guys would be on the YouTube bandwagon at this point, but you're not starting from where you started from with Husey all those years ago. And he's very clever with his fucking clickbait. And like, he stays within the YouTube guidelines, but he fucking finds ways to make people go, I want to click on that. Husey is very fucking good at that shit.
And the biggest gift Billy gave us was leaving the show or starting a scrap with Sean Ross Sapp or whatever, because people want to hear him get buried. So those YouTube clips always did very well,
Yeah.
Or when he was fired, then we had like 15 minutes on him that did really good, So thanks, Bill.
When Conan finally lit him up was that was the one we were all waiting for. When Conan finally decided to light him up. I feel like Disco goes harder in the tweets than he did on the air.
He does.
But when Conan lit him up on air, that was where I think all of us stood up, gave him the old.
Yeah, people were happy. People were definitely happy. And this isn't a Billy bash, but so this will be the last thing I say.
It's a bash.
But it is. I like his commitment because he'll just say things that aren't accurate and are easily disproven, or just common sense would tell you they're not correct. And he'll be like, yeah, half their listeners left and followed me, and other stuff like that. And it's like, bro, I see the numbers. I know exactly what happened. Everything went up, you know?
No, we came back. We were like, yay, he's gone. We're free. But then there was another thing that came on to K100 that also was like, we got to step away now a little bit during a portion of the show. But
I can imagine.
That's another story for a different day. All right, give me somebody else that we could throw on this list, and I think we got ourselves a top 5, the old classic Husey style. What do we got here?
Otaku. Oh, JD too. JD too, but yeah.
JD, Dean, who do you think?
I personally go Otaku. I think the Otaku stuff that Get My Go did was funnier than the JD stuff. But I also think like JD is fucking successful. You got to give the guy his due. Like people give him tons of money, and I don't get it, and I'll never get it. But he is successful. Otaku is a disgusting mess that somehow thinks he's above people. Like it's bonkers to me. So yeah, I would put Otaku personally.
Otaku. See, I never really got on the Otaku bandwagon originally. Like, so I really watched most of it when I wasn't on any of those episodes, so I watched those in real time. But I just never really got the content outside of it. So when I watched it, I was like, yeah, he's just a fat slob who thinks that he's over. But, he's just replicating your average wrestling fan now. That this is, I hate to say, this is what your average wrestling fan thinks of themselves. They think that they're this over, wrestling's their whole life. They can do whatever they want. They can say whatever they want. They're big fatso. They smell. They go to grocery stores to film their content. They think they're
they aren't allowed near elementary schools.
Yeah, exactly. But to me, Otaku was just replicating your average wrestling fan with a little bit more of the women stuff, because we all know wrestling fans today are afraid of women. So he was a little bit more outward with his delusional nature of thinking that he could get women. Hatred. No, but he thinks he can fuck all these chicks. So I thought that it was kind of weird that guy his size could think that. But I never really got on board with the Otaku. So I could definitely see your points. But Otaku, to me, he was a great novelty for the show. And if we do him again, I'd be right there to jump on board. JD, I agree with you. Just it's almost unfathomable how much money this clown gets from guys and gals and people who watch and support him, because he's not saying anything that's outrageous. He's just stating what he's watching and just yelling about it. But he's got a shitty background. He pretends that he's in a bar. He's probably never even been to a real bar.
He's a Braves fan.
He's a Braves fan who lives in the Bronx. I mean, it's like it's backwards. But I wouldn't put him on this list because it's just kind of like I was a novelty stop off in the Get My Go world. There was I wish we could have done more, and I've said this many times on bottom right. I think that he completely took a pass, because we could have gone super duper hard on him. But I got a guy for you who I thought was almost the death of Get My Go. Juan Unda.
Oh, I didn't remember.
Yeah, we're supposed to do that script.
He doesn't deserve a top 5. He's not a bad guy.
No,
he's just delusional. He's just delusional.
Delusional. Okay. All right. Juan Unda gets a pass. Who else we got? Matthew Klein Caper.
Well, let me say about
that's right. Fuck, I've forgotten some of these people. I'm not as attuned to the Get My Go stuff as I used to be.
Yeah, I didn't even remember fucking Juan Unda. JD, the good thing about JD is whenever I think you're a little overcompensated, buddy, then I see the money JD makes, so that's helpful.
And you sit there and you go, "What am I doing wrong?"
Yeah, well, I won't.
What the hell am I doing wrong?
I won't watch wrestling. That's pretty much, But believe me, I'll be diving headfirst into that if and when K100 ends. All of a sudden, I'll be a big wrestling pundit. Otaku. See, it's like for the Sopranos marks out there. Adriana said to Crazy Ralph Cifaretto in a Sopranos episode, and it's not exactly genius. It's a common saying, but she's like, you can tell everything about a guy by the way he treats his mother, and that's true. But I also have a real problem with a guy like Otaku who really just genuinely hates women and is probably dangerous. But yeah, so when I see someone that's really and they're super misogynist, but they're not being funny. Like funny misogyny is great. That's classic comedy right there. But when you're just actually virulently hateful, like I knew immediately this guy was just scumbag piece of shit and probably mentally disturbed. Really, I mean, you don't think he would? Never mind. I was going to say he'll probably wind up kidnapping a teenage girl, but that could be interpreted as slander. So allegedly maybe he could.
A fictitious version of him could potentially do that. But
Yeah.
we're all characters when we get behind the microphone, according to Brother Martin. So maybe it's just a wrestling otaku character. Maybe he's like a clergyman or something. Maybe he's absolutely on the up and up. But this is just the otaku character.
He's a bad person.
All right, so round them out for me. I'll give you my 5, and then you guys give me your 5, and we'll round it out, see where we're at.
What is the actual category though?
I don't know. It's just the top
What
5.
are we
Really, like
It's
the most
top 5
ranking
members of the Rogues Gallery.
No, you said like most despicable or something.
Most
like that, or
despicable,
most hated. Yeah.
Most hated. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever it is, I'm just trying to fill the fucking hour, Dean. So I don't know. We can kind of call it whatever the hell we want. It's not like this is beat the press.
What we've discussed so far doesn't include Wangland, because I agree. I don't think he's despicable. I think he got himself in a bit of a tizzy there for a year or two and he didn't know how to react to it. But I don't think he's a bad person. But John Wangland is the entire basis of Get My Go, so he needs some sort of a mention in this list somehow.
That's why I put him at number 5, because he had to be on the list.
We never mentioned Mitch Valentine, by the way.
Mitch Valentine to me, I didn't get Mitch when the episode got Mitch dropped. I did not get Mitch, and it's funny. I heard an episode, I think it was when Cav had Sonny on and mentioned Mitch, that I kind of put the whole Mitch puzzle together, and I don't really still get Mitch. I don't understand. It's just another fat delusional wrestling guy. I don't understand where Mitch is coming from or what he's about or who he is.
Have some respect for he's a veteran. Come on.
I did actually. Yeah. Well, no, I'm about to explain. I remembered him from all those years ago when I used to listen to K100, and I stopped before Billy Barty. So it wasn't your fault, Billy. But no, I remember him from Disco List Wrestling.
Whose fault is it? I'll try to it.
No, to be totally honest, my wrestling fandom ran its course, and it became less appointment listening for me.
Yeah,
similar with Cornette. I used to listen to every Cornette episode. Now, every now and then, I'll chuck one on if I've got nothing else to listen to. I've just got out of the wrestling fucking bullshit altogether.
Oh, you don't want to hear them talk about their sponsor guy for an hour plus every week? Just let's hear about all the money you lose and how Brian Last can't handle it, so they got to cover it every fucking week for an hour plus.
Yeah, all that shit. But no, Last. I remembered Mitch Valentine from Disco List Wrestling and those promos, and I fucking hated that shit. I was like, I mean, you guys used to goof on it pretty good, so that was fine. But I was like, this shit sucks. And yeah, I think Mitch is boring. And yeah, I don't think there's anything there with Mitch.
I'm actually making a list.
Who else we got? Yeah, that's what I've been writing on the whole time. I mean, that's
we didn't really mention John, but that was a one-off.
John
Melenders.
Oh, Stuttering John.
It was our attempt at Dabbleverse inclusion, which I think we were knocking on the door. It was, but it was good. It was a very good series. Wasn't it 2 episodes, or was it 1?
I think that was a 1.
Fit it in 1.
It was 1. I thought it was great.
He cut it.
It was very good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I personally think it could have been better. I rushed to get clips like a couple of days out.
Yeah, there was a lot. There was a lot. I said it to you at the end of the show. The good ones, yeah.
The burn victim guy who was interviewing him, again, another guy who could have got a Get My Go spotlight, who got a huge pass.
Yeah, well, and Carl from WATP continues to talk about how we should look into him more often. That's Tommy from MSCS Media. That guy is bonkers out of his mind. Like we could get some good stuff out of that. So yeah, look, the Stuttering John one. Stuttering John is also despicable. Like he's a terrible person. But people that get close to him do seem to genuinely like him. So I think, like, if you get close enough to him, he probably is a nice guy. But
yeah, good guy to have a beer with or whatever.
Yeah, but outwardly, everything he presents in a public forum, he Oof. And he doesn't even understand when he's making himself sound like shit. Like when he's telling a story, he thinks he's the hero of the story. And it's like, dude, you sound horrible right now. Why are you telling us this? You know?
Oh, Richie Riordan. Richie Riordan made a show or two.
Richie. Yeah, Richie.
Don't
He was
remember
nothing.
him.
I think I finally named everyone.
All right,
Yeah,
I'm going to give you my
I think that is
five.
all of them. All right, go.
I got Wangland, Billy, Rue, Brother Martin, Rad Rob. 5-1.
Yeah.
Rad Rob's number one, huh? Yeah. You want to go first, Dean, or?
Well, you apparently wrote it down, so here you go.
Yeah. I got to figure out an order. Well, 1, Rob. 2,
Wow,
Otaku.
That's going to be universal. I can tell you that.
2's Otaku. 3, Martin. 4, Billy. 5, JD.
Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, so yeah, look, I think our top 3 is all pretty similar. At 5, yeah, I'll go JD. Yeah, I think JD at 5. At 4, Otaku. At 3, Billy. At 2, Brother Martin. At 1, Rad Rob. Yep.
Interesting. I like it. See, that's very diverse. I got to include Wangland, even though I gave him that nice little build up at the beginning, just because he is the makeup of Get My Go. So
Yeah, I don't. John's not despicable.
All the things.
John's not despicable. Yeah. He's just crooked as a dog's hind leg, pretty much.
Yeah, and if you're talking about impact on Get My Go, then Wangland's number 1 every day. You know, that's
right. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends the category that we're making, and we went for despicable, and I think everyone that's listening to Get My Go, including Martin's fucking fake cancer and fucking back GoFundMe's and all that shit, we can all agree that Rad Rob is the most despicable person, and I think we can all agree that. Wow, how long did we go? Did we go nearly 12 months? Over 12 months of like giving that guy a pass?
He got subtle jokes at his expense for
it seemed like we weren't going to touch it. Right.
Yeah.
And then all we really did against him was the face-off, right? We never did.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that was the if I'm remembering correctly, the face-off was his real exit because something happened and he jumped forward to contacting Wangland or something and dropped the face-off in the group. I don't know why my brain is a little scrambled, but I feel like the face-off had a lot to do with it too. Thinking that he was getting an exclusive or something like that. And
I think, you're right. I think what it was at that time, I think the writing was on the wall for him. And he's like, I'm going to get the big Wangland interview on my way out. And then he tried to be all like, oh, I'm never going to talk about Wangland again. But if they want me on for other episodes.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But your connection to John and your inside stories and stuff is what you were doing on the show, so.
Yeah, exactly. And that showdown was so fucking pathetic.
So bad.
It was such a pathetic nothing burger. Like, yeah.
That's how you can tell. That's when I was still mad because you can see all the vicious comments I was throwing at him.
You were heavy in the comments from what I remember. I was just watching parts of it. I kept clicking in and out, but you were super heavy in the comments.
Corey Ryan.
Corey Ryan. I mean, he's not despicable. He's just a mess.
Release the Corey Ryan episode.
My buddy and I have a common saying that we use if we see like an old friend who's hit hard times or a guy like, say, Corey Ryan, who drinks too much and he's bad at it and is obsessed with pro wrestling. And so you think about yourself and you're like, a couple different turns in life. I might be Corey Ryan, so you always say, there for the grace of God goes I,
Let me tell you, out of that saga, Corey Ryan, that did create a little bit of a saga because I got contacted by Eli, Corey's buddy, after that episode. And I eventually got to talking to him and we had some rational conversations and everybody came around and Corey ended up coming on Get My Go. And Eli did some designs for me. He did some designs for Chad, did some work for Chad. But as always with, I guess, insecure, maybe mentally unstable people on the internet is they don't get it. They don't get,
And they
going to poke fun.
create conflict and strife and all that.
It's like people are poking fun, people are cracking jokes. Like, why do you take everything so personally? Why do you get upset over? And it's funny because everybody does the same thing. All of these people do the same thing. They're bullies and they're stalkers. And it's like, come on, we read your posts on the internet and fucking laugh at them. You know what I mean? We make fun of the shit you put on the internet. Like, what are you talking about, stalker, bully? Like, that's just such a weak response to this kind of thing.
I completely forgot Corey Ryan came on.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to go find that. I completely forgot about that.
Buddy.
It's gone.
Is
Doesn't
that one
exist,
gone?
right?
I thought the Corey
No.
Ryan episode was the video version of the Corey Ryan episode.
Yeah, because there was Corey F and Ryan where we destroyed him.
right.
And then he came on. Yeah, so that's episode 32, I believe. And then episode 39, I believe, is called Buddy. And that's the Corey Ryan interview with Joe and
Wow.
Mike
Okay.
Durden.
Wow,
Yeah.
I completely forgot about
See,
that.
I've forgotten, like, episodes 50 and beyond, I've kind of forgotten everything that happened. But 50 and before, I am still a wealth of knowledge of everything that happened in that first 50 episodes.
Can't somebody make the Get My Go wiki, right? Where we have all this
for
stuff
real.
completely organized. And this
Yeah.
is where I'm going to use my YouTube studying I've been doing lately because I'm trying to enhance the Eyes Up Here YouTube channel in a major way. What are your thoughts? Drop it in the comments. Give us your top 5. How does it weigh against ours? Is it similar? Do you have something that we completely forgot? We would love to hear from you, but drop it in the comments.
You didn't finish, right, Dean? Or did you? I don't think you finished.
Yeah, I did.
No, he gave the 5.
Oh,
He
give
had
me it again. Give me it again.
I went
JD, Otaku, Billy, Brother Martin, Rad Rob.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
My bad. I didn't know you got to 1.
Yeah, well, we all agreed on number 1.
Yeah, no surprise there, really.
I mean, you get charged with a sex crime. You're number 1.
I can't believe you all gave Rue a pass. I mean, that's incredible. And Rue's biggest defense to the Get My Go universe is bad comedy. That's it. That's his biggest defense because it's despicable how bad he butchers comedy. Period.
Well, what if he's like I remember John faked a comment and talked about himself, and he was like, "Ha ha ha, fake death." He's like the Andy Kaufman of wrestling, or I don't know what it was. It was really bad. What if Rue is actually just doing a Kaufman and he's shitting on purpose?
No, he's just shitty. It's not,
You can tell Chad's like, I never considered that.
No, he's just shitty. Again, when he trolls me, it's so bad that it's Rue. And I posted it in one of the chats. It's so incredibly bad. And I don't block anybody, so I'm not blocking it. You can comment and post all day long. I don't pay it any attention. It's so, and he's posting under like Francine stuff. Like he's trying to get, Francine to respond. Like it's so bad that nobody feels the need to respond. Cause it's just like, you look at it, you just go, okay. Like I think the same thing. I feel more of a need to respond to the guy who wants to put Francine in a straitjacket in the comments on the Eyes Up Here YouTube videos. Okay. I mean, like that guy's got a little more, at least context to his comments. Rue's shit is so bad that it doesn't even necessitate a response. Like, oh, I'm so angry at you now, Rue. You posted on my Twitter wall. No, it's so bad. It pays no attention to my regular response routine.
People with improv training in comedy are the worst. Like, because they're so proud of themselves. Like, fucking Second City. Like, I shouldn't know that place, but I do because so many people are proud of themselves for going there. And I'm like, I'm a comedy genius because I know how to yes and. And it's like, yeah, how about you show me some actual comedy other than your pathetic characters? Like doing a funny voice is not comedy. Like you've got to have jokes to go along with it. You know what I mean? And for all the criticism I've copped for some of my bad characters, I was always trying to go for jokes. It wasn't just I'm doing a voice. I'm trying to go for jokes. Yeah.
The worst.
Yeah, absolutely.
The worst one ever. You've done so many, but wow, this is the worst one.